Hello and welcome to Women's Biz Podcast. I'm Annie Gibbins, founder and CEO of Women's Biz Global, and I invite you to get comfortable and listen in on candid conversations I have with fascinating women from around the globe. Business leaders, entrepreneurs, humanitarians, athletes, and a whole lot of regular people. Tune in as they let their guard down and open up on aspects of their business and life journey, how they measure success, and what they have learned along the way. These conversations aim to inspire you to embrace opportunities and possibilities beyond the limits of your imagination. Reclaim your power, strength, and vulnerability. Stand in your truth and propel yourself towards the life you dream to live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Women's Biz Podcast. I'm your host, Annie Gibbins, and today we're going to be talking all things construction. I love it, the way we dive into different industries, different women doing their thing, shaking it all up. And today's episode is going to be fabulous. I have joining me today is Chelsea Husum, and she is going to talk about her amazing life and journey in the whole area of construction. She's a multi-passionate entrepreneur. She's an author. She's soon to be podcast host. Are you hosting it, Chelsea? I'm not too sure.
I'm planning it.
She's planning it. It's still coming. She wears so many hats, like so many of us do. She's also a devoted mom and a wife, and we're both of us keeping kids and grandkids busy while we're sharing with you today. And I love that. I love the way women just turn up and just do life. And like all of us, she's got a compelling story. She's had a few curveballs come her way, and she's going to share about how she has been thriving through them. It's not always easy navigating trauma. She's going to share about how she's really excelled in a male-dominated area, which is construction. There's so many male-dominated areas. Won't it be great, listeners, when we can actually say, we don't have male-dominated areas? That's going to be a day where I'm going to say my job is done. So we're going to talk all things resilience, determination, how to build a successful startup. Let's just dive into it. Welcome to the program, Chelsea.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
It's wonderful to have you joining me today and our listeners all around the globe. Yes. So how about you just share a little bit about yourself, your personal experiences, what shaped you to actually go into the area of construction and that whole concept of overcoming to lead you to that place?
Yeah. So I live near Denver, Colorado. Like you said, I have two sons and I do own a construction company. But I was not playing with Barbies when I was little thinking I'm going to, number one, own a company, or number two, be in construction. I'll be very clear on that. So I have a Spanish degree and a broadcast journalism degree. I thought I wanted to be the next Barbara Walters. And then I found out that reporters would make like 20 grand a year and work nights and weekends. And I was like, I don't know if I want to do that. So I ended up moving. I'm from a small town in South Dakota. I ended up moving to Colorado to do my internship to finish my degree. And so I was like, well, it's been 6 months. The student loans started coming due for payment. And I was like, I need a job, any job. So I took a job as a kind of a temp receptionist for different offices in downtown Denver. And this woman said, hey, you need to meet my sister. She works at a trade show and experiential marketing company. They need a receptionist. So I went over there and she hired me. So I ended up working at that company for about 5 or 6 years, and I moved up throughout the company. It was really great, but I had this feeling in my soul that I wasn't doing anything like worthwhile or making a difference in the world. So I was like, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. So kind of did some soul searching, and I ended up deciding I wanted to become a teacher. So I quit that job. I got my master's in education, and I became a high school Spanish teacher for 10 years. So amazing. Totally different, it was like, let's do this. So I really enjoyed that. But the last year was kind of rough. And one day a kid called me an effing waste of space. And I was just sitting there. I remember sitting in my classroom like, oh, this is gonna be a long year. Like, I just don't love it anymore, you know? And if I don't love something, I need to change real quick, or it's just not good, you know? So I applied for all these jobs. No one called me. It was crickets. Nobody called me. The only job I got offered was as an office manager for a construction company.
Okay,
So
we're going to pause here though.
yeah.
So you've done 10 years. You've gone
Yep.
back and you've got your Masters of Education,
Mm-hmm.
years investing here.
Yeah.
And then you're like, I've had a bad day, bad moment. It's not suddenly doing. And then
Yeah.
why do you think it was crickets? Was it because I know our listeners will sort of be wondering this, you know, did you just then go, was construction just one of the jobs? It was kind of like a default, or were you applying for things in education? Why the crickets?
Yes, I don't know. So I was sitting there like, did teaching pigeonhole me, you know? Like, for me personally, I would hire a teacher in a second because they juggle a million things. They're, you know, they're resilient. They adapt to all kinds of different things. So I was applying for pretty easy jobs like assistants or executive assistants, or really just anything that looked kind of fun.
Yeah.
And I don't know. And so I really was so desperate. It was a really rough year. That last year was really bad. And I was just miserable at home. My husband probably was like, oh my gosh, who are you? You know, and I don't want to live that way. I'm not the kind of person that's going to get up, go to a job I hate, and just suffer through life. I will not do that. I refuse. So when I don't like something, I need to find, I'm like looking, what's next, right?
And for
So
those listening, that can be a common problem though. When you want to do a real pivot, like in your career,
yeah.
I agree that the problem, the reason you get crickets is because everyone looks and goes, you're a teacher, you're just getting a side job, but you want to be a teacher. You know, like they'll assume you don't really want this job. That's why I'm thinking you got the crickets, because it's too hard to believe that after all this time, you'd suddenly want to do their job and
something
their job
else. Yeah.
Amazing. So suddenly construction loved a teacher.
Yeah. And I took that job, and honestly, I got like 2 days of training. I just got thrown in. It was brutal. I cried a lot. I learned the hard way. It was bad. But I figured it out. And then really that having to figure it out right now, then when I started my company, I'm in commercial construction. A lot of the same things now that I deal with, I had to learn the hard way through that job. So I'm grateful for it. Like it taught me what it needed to, right?
How long did you work in that role before you actually then started your own company?
So I left teaching in 2019, went to that in March of 2020. I started my company, but I really wasn't doing business. I was kind of just building the company in 2020. So then I worked both jobs until April of 22. And it was just at that point, my company had grown so much. And I was like, I physically cannot juggle these both full-time jobs anymore. And I'm like, I'm losing my mind, you know? So I had to, thank God it was that time I was able to then step into, now I run my company and that's what I do. And I remember that day. It was April 1st, almost 2 years ago. And I remember it. I saw the memory pop up on social media and I'm like, man, that was a big day.
Big day. It changes your life. That moment when you start a company, there's two, I think. When you actually start the company and go, oh my gosh, I'm doing this. And then the other moment for me is when you're doing two things. You're doing that company, plus you've got your day job, because let's face it,
you need money.
You need money. That cash flow is going to keep coming in. There's a lot of expenses. And then you get that breaking moment, which sounds like you've shared, that you go, oh my gosh, I actually can't do two jobs now at the same time, which is a good thing, because it meant that your company was doing enough to sustain you. But scary, right?
It is
exciting and it's scary, but it shows that you're at that next level. I love that. I love
Thank you.
Oh my goodness. So then you're 2 years in and your business has grown. Did it grow? So you said it's grown quickly right from the beginning, which is super cool.
Yeah.
Did you do anything to put in place to just ensure that happened? Do you think you look back now and you go, I've been quite lucky?
It's definitely not luck. I've worked my butt off, but the first year, so just to give you an idea, I did $17,000 the first year. Second year, I did 280,000.
Wowza.
Third year, 480, and last year I did 706,000. So this year I should be over $1 million. So it is over doubled each year. And honestly, what I attribute that to is my employees. I have really incredible employees that are very good at what they do. And I, as the owner, have made sure to pay them very well. And I pay them 40 hours a week, whether they're working or not, because in construction, I go up, hi, I own a construction company. You want to work for me? And I'm sure people are like, who is this crazy lady? What? These men that are like, they're older than me, and they took a chance on me, but they have families, they have lives. So I need to take care of them. And, sometimes it's really busy. And then sometimes, let's say you don't have work on one day for one of them or somebody. And so I know I need to take care of them so they're okay. And so if they don't, if they weren't getting paid for a day here and a day there, they can't survive that way. So I know that I pay more up front for payroll each week, but it's worth it because I have good employees. And so I attribute the growth to that and just relationships. We don't advertise. We just get business word of mouth, and we get, just by relationships. When I go to events, I know these people. I've become friends with a lot of the different companies that I work with, and we talk about life, and it's all about making relationships. It's not always talking business. It's talking life. That's how you grow and get referrals, and then they refer you, which is even better.
It is so much better. So to our listeners, whether you're on any of our audio platforms or you might be watching us now on LinkedIn Live or YouTube, I tell you what, you've struck it on the head there. You should be writing that down. That is your gold nugget for the day, listeners. It is all about relationships. Business is relationship. Business growth is about developing those relationships. And it's so much easier than all of that other marketing that you can throw out spaghetti on the wall, right? You can actually just keep building those relationships. People like people. People respect people. And I love what you said there about your staff. And I love meeting people who really recognize the value of the team. Because seriously, it always takes a village. I love the way you are appreciating that's right. These people will stay with you and work hard because they appreciate the certainty of their role. When you keep people part-time, casual, and they don't know that, they'll always be looking for something more secure. Whereas that's it. Even if they're not doing a 40-hour week, it's like, no, you're my people. I want to guarantee you're on my team. Seriously, that is another gold nugget for our listeners today. Fantastic. Now, you've had incredible growth. So first of all, congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're also juggling. You said you've got a couple of boys. It's really hard to then suddenly be at that pace where you're starting a business and in 2, 3, 4 years, you're suddenly growing exponentially, but you're still wanting to do life. You've got it's a big juggle. Have you burnt yourself out? How do you look after yourself? What's that hectic schedule look like?
So it's never perfect and it's always changing. But I do love having control over my schedule. Like, for example, last year I turned 40 and I said, I want to turn 40 in Italy. I've never been there. So I'm like, my husband and I went for 10 days. Now, mind you, minus my employees working on the job sites, I had no one. I do literally everything. And so I was in Italy for 10 days with the time change, doing everything still. But I made it work and I had a blast. And I somehow drank Aperol spritzes all day. And then I went and worked late at night. It was great. But I mean, I've been on vacation in Mexico numerous times, or I go skiing with my kids and then I come back and I throw them in the pool so they can swim and I work. I might work sometimes weird hours, but I know what I have to do and I get caught up on it. But really for me, juggling a lot is what I've learned, I was not very good at this in the beginning, but I'm getting better at it, is having boundaries for your time. Like, for example, I have a lot of banks and insurance companies always want to take me out to coffee and get to know me and see how they can support me, which is great. But I've now learned that is a waste of my time. And it's a waste of theirs as well, because I'm not switching banks or insurance companies. And I know the value of my time. It is not best used in that way. So I kindly say no and I move on. So it's, or if I get invited to different events or things like that. And it's like, if the event is not connecting me with my current clients or getting me new clients or allowing me to build relationships, then I don't go. It's again, it's not the best use of my time. But for me, I'm a really I'm a boring old grandma, like 90-year-old. I go to bed at 9 and I'm like, peace out. I'm gone. But I get up at 5:30 in the morning. I go right to the gym. My whole family's sleeping still when I get home because my phone starts ringing at 6 or 7 o'clock with construction. It's early, and I'm putting out fires sometimes that early. And so that is my time for me. I know I need that. I have to move my body because if I say, oh, I'm going to work out at 2 o'clock. Yeah, right. No, I'm tired. Something will come up. Like I'll find some stupid excuse why I shouldn't. Right.
Exactly.
So that like your habits, I've figured out what makes me feel really good mentally and physically and really bad. And now it's like, where do I want to be with my life? What do I want to be doing? Do I have time to feel like crap? No, I don't. I have too much. I'm juggling. Right. And so I've learned to make the tough decisions of like, yeah, I'm not going to, like, I quit drinking recently because I would have 2 glasses of wine, which I love wine. I love margaritas and wine. And nothing against if you still drink, but I was getting headaches so bad from like 2 glasses, which I shouldn't be that shouldn't be happening. But and then I'd be like, have the worst headache the next day. And I'm just like, this isn't helping me in any way. Right. So I just made the decision, like, cut it out and see how you feel, so you have to make those decisions of like, what are your habits? What are your boundaries? How are you spending your time? And if anything's making you feel bad or wasting your time, you got to get rid of it.
Brilliant example of building successful habits, right? That's what we're talking about here. It's actually saying what works for me, what gives me the optimum outcomes for my time, my money, and my expertise, right? Your health, and things like that. Knowing yourself, it's getting ahead of the curveball, right? So for some people, and you're like me, it's like, seriously, I have to get up and go and do it now because if I think I'll go after work to the gym, probably not.
Never.
And probably will be having a glass of wine.
Yeah.
And I love what you said there, and that's bold and brave to actually put it out there because I've reached that time as well, that you want to be nice and people go, do you want to come to this event or do you want to network? And it's kind of like, yeah, nice. And it's like, but if you go and you haven't made connections that are of value or you haven't given value, there's both, it's not worth it. That's right.
Yeah.
Valuing your time is so important because that's it. You'd rather spend double the time on a relationship that's going to take you somewhere, right?
Yeah. And I think all of us women are so busy juggling a million things. And it's like, maybe you literally need to stay in and have a cup of tea and like rest that night. Maybe that's what your soul actually needs instead of going to that event. And very likely that's probably it because we don't rest very much. I have to like force myself to sit down. And then I'm like, my husband's like, can you come like relax for a bit? I'm like, it's like, I don't even know how to relax. I sit there for 5-10 minutes and then I'm like up, wandering around the house again. He's like, oh my gosh. And we struggle to like relax but that is okay. If you're burnt out and you have all this stuff going on, it is okay to actually say, I have a previous commitment. And guess what? That commitment is you and you're resting and it's okay, right?
I have something on. I'm taking a bath.
I have a very busy, important night plan.
Do less but do it better. That's my view.
Yes,
and
I'm trying to do less.
Speed up, right? Slow down to speed up, which is a really weird concept. But I tell you what, when you slow down to reassess and then you then look after yourself and then go for that next little sprint in an area that you intentionally want to sort of attack, if you like, so valuable.
Yeah.
Now you in this time would have had some really tough times, though, really challenging times. What, can you give an example of something that actually has been really confronting for you that you thought, this is going to be hard, but I've got to push through?
Yeah, I'll give 2 examples if that's okay. Because I'm going to show how differently I dealt with them. It's very drastically different. So 20 years ago, I was studying Spanish in South America in Ecuador by myself. I was living down there for 3 months by myself. To my mother's dismay, she's like, oh my gosh. But I ended up being drugged and raped and left alone in an abandoned house by my Spanish professor there from my school in Ecuador. And I woke up alone on a mattress on the floor in this, like, there was no other furniture there, by myself. I had no clue where I was. And it's crazy to me that I did this, but I think a lot of us, like, it was so traumatic. I tried to get out. I kept getting electrocuted by the door. And I finally get out after like a half hour, and I took a cab back to school because now it was morning time, in the same clothes I had on the night before. And I went to school like a good girl, right? I'm here for school. I'm not going to miss school. And I saw his face there. I mean, he was there. And I never told anyone for 20 years. I didn't tell anyone at the school. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't tell my friends. I literally like shoved that so far down deep inside of me. I locked it. I threw away the key till recently. So now, fast forward to present day, more or less, I was in a really, really horrible lawsuit for 2.5 years of my life. It actually ended late last year, so not that long ago. And 2.5 years of living in fear, being attacked, having all these things said about you that are not true, but you are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, defending yourself, these lawyer fees. I mean, I would wake up in hives. I was so depressed. My kids were like, Mommy, when are we losing our house? Mommy, here's $12. You need it more than I do. And it just literally seeped into me. And it was the most heavy, soul-sucking, horrible experience of my life. But I remember waking up one morning and I was like, I am not okay. I'm not okay at all. Like, I didn't want to die, but I didn't want to live anymore. And I was just like, I remembered my family was sleeping. I texted my girlfriend who's a therapist and I said, I'm not okay. Can you help me? And she's like, I got you, girl. And I really relied heavily on her that during that time. And I thought that's when I was like, okay, you have to take care of yourself, or you feel like it's going to break you. Everybody goes through hard times. We all have. When you're in it, it literally is so hard, but it's like you have to get rid of the things that are making you feel bad. Get out in the sunshine, move your body, talk to a therapist, cancel those meetings that you don't need to be at, because you need to be a little gentle with yourself when you're really struggling that bad. And then you will dig out and you can come out stronger on the other side. But it's so hard when you're in it. And if you're doing things to make you feel bad, it's so much harder to cope and deal, dig through it. Right. So It's weird to me that, these two situations made me feel powerless. Fearful, horrible experiences, but how I dealt with it now versus 20 years ago, right? Now I know myself, I've done the work and I know what I need to do to work through and actually be okay.
Wow. So sorry that happened to you for at that time, and for many of us. We've been hearing the statistics even in Australia, and I know in the US they're horrific on domestic violence, assaults on women. We've got a woman dying every week here in Australia.
Wow, that's horrible.
Attacks and things like that. So, this is a really serious issue. And how crazy is it that something is screwy with the way we raise girls, that incidents like this can actually happen? And what do? We just pull ourselves together, pretend it didn't happen, and go off to school.
Right?
What?
I mean,
it's mental, but it's real, because I've done that sort of thing before, say, oh, well, just pretend it didn't happen, or no one will believe me anyway, or I'll just, or I've got to be a good girl, or what would people say?
Yeah.
It's crazy. So I thank you for sharing that so honestly, because it actually helps others listening going, gosh, I'm not crazy. That is a way that we've responded, but how wonderful that we can actually, as we mature and grow and start confronting issues like this, say, you know what, never again. I'm going to hide for 20 years. I'm actually going to own my worth and
take your power back, right?
Take that power back and do it. And is it hard? Hell yeah, right?
It's worth it. Yeah.
It is worth it. It's worth it every single time.
Yep.
Oh my goodness, you have been through such a challenge, and to be able to be going through even that challenge for the last few years
Mm-hmm.
while growing such an incredible business. I mean,
Well.
how amazing are women, right?
Yeah.
Incredible. So
Uh,
your biggest learnings, just to finish up,
mm-hmm.
you've had an incredible journey, an amazing journey, a challenging journey, and that's what I love about that on Women's Biz Podcast, that we're very real, very authentic, sharing the highs and the lows. What are some key lessons that you've actually learned that will actually, will shape your future success, and that will help other people listening in today?
Yeah, I think so. From these stories, and with my book, it's just short stories of things I've gone through in life, and both of those stories I talk in depth about, and a bunch of other things. But when I was writing, it's like all these stories kind of started pouring out of me. Some are really intense, some are in the middle, some are kind of lighter. But it's like the first chapter is, if you're a perfect mom, don't read this. And then I talk about like the 20 crazy things my kids did that week, and then how I was like crying in the bathroom, and and really I'm trying to be real and vulnerable and show people, hey, she's a hot mess. But she's working hard, she's positive, she's passionate, she's a dreamer, right? And she can, women feel so alone. Like, I've had so many messages since this book has come out. They're like, oh my gosh, I always feel like I need to be perfect, and I can't, like, everybody else looks so perfect, and I'm feeling these feelings, and I'm thinking these things, and I feel like I'm alone and I'm the only one. And I want to give women especially permission to own your stories, own whatever you've been through in the past, get rid of the shame and the guilt, go out, kick some butt, and like shine how you're meant to shine. But let's actually be real. If we're struggling, let's find our tribe, because the connection, if you actually say what you're going through or struggling with, the connection is so much deeper. Right? You actually, you'll find your people. You will. And get rid of those people that make you feel like crap or judge you or are fake. Get rid of them. Right? Like, so let's own our stories and just be real and embrace that.
Fantastic advice for our listeners today. I totally agree with that. Go full on in business, follow your dreams, push yourself. If you're a high energy person, which obviously Chelsea is, who I am, I'm one of those people who sit on the couch and get all bouncy going, I want to do something. And it's, sometimes it's just the way we're wired, right? It's not necessarily a bad thing. It would be good to slow down a little bit more, but you know what? We get a lot done. It's okay. Reading yourself, your personality, your where your health's at, knowing when to slow down, making sure that, like you've shared today, you're ahead of the curve on knowing what's going to work well for you and what doesn't. Having that brave moment of choosing, maybe sometimes people who aren't helpful to your life moving forward, and being able to sort of, we're going to distance. I'm going to pour more people who are positive and supportive into my world. And, that's right. And showing up authentically, I think that's one of the best things. And that's where the real culture shift is changing with women too, particularly in my tribe, and definitely where you're at is going, you know what, when we're going great, we want to go, you go girl, you know, got you sister. And when you're not, you go and say, thank you for that. How can I help?
Exactly.
And that actually helps other people who are sitting there going, oh, thank God, everyone else looks perfect. And that's really intimidating. And that's not helpful. So you can go and say, you know what, I just did this massive deal this week, but I'm actually got a booming headache, and I'm struggling. And it's not all easy, and people will be going, oh, that's kind of here. Not that they want to know that you're having a hard time, but also to go, that's normal, Or I took a few days off because I could feel myself burning out. And then now I go, you know what? Now I'm going to come back firing, and I'll probably work crazy hours next week. But
but you feel energized, and you're like, let's do this.
Ready to do it, and they're going to be the best crazy hours that I've ever worked. Of that nature. Fantastic. I think it's so cathartic to write a book, right? I'm a publisher myself. I'm all into people sharing their stories. I'm sure you found that actually fantastic, just for yourself, for the experience, let alone what the readers receive. So powerful, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. It was a lot of stories that I've put into words for the first time. So, and I remember there were a few stories where I'm sitting there typing and just crying as I'm, it's very healing. It is very healing. And it's funny. One of my best friends for many, many years, she texted me one day. She's like, "Oh my God, I was up till 1:30 last night reading your book. I couldn't stop." And she's like, I know you so well, but like, I am reading all these stories that I didn't even know. And I'm learning, like, I know you so well, but I'm learning so much about you too, and it's like, it's just funny that we have all these stories inside, and who knows, you got to share them. If you feel called to do it, share it with the world.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Open that book, and that's right. It allows those in your world who think they know you so well to actually go, you know what? There's even more, many, many, many layers to this woman. Yeah. And if that's your thing, definitely reach out to me as a publisher. But do it for yourselves to actually, start writing. It's so powerful. I find it just a wonderful balance. Actually, that's something that I can sit on the couch doing. Writing.
Yeah, right.
So you got to find your thing. Oh my goodness, our time has flown today. It's been such a great conversation. Congratulations.
Thank you. This was wonderful.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you to our listeners. We love having you join us every single week. If you've got a question, pop it in the chat. We would love to get back to you on the audio platforms, on the video platforms. We would love to, hear what you've got to ask us. If you want to reach out to Chelsea, pop a question there and she'll be able to get back to you as well. Until next week, have an awesome week. Reach out to me via Women's Biz Global if you would love to discuss your next level of success, whatever you're choosing to do, whether it's starting a business, growing a business, scaling a business, writing a book. Oh my goodness. The world is full of limitless opportunities. It's about where you're at the moment and having that moment to think, what's next for me? Like Chelsea had when she went, you know what? Even I've done all this effort, I'm going to have a shift and I'm going to make it successful. And there you go. It's all possible. Anyway, thanks so much, Chelsea. It's been
Thank you. This was wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of Women's Biz Podcast. I'm Annie Gibbins, founder and CEO of Women's Biz Global. And if you would like to fast track your future success, pop on over to womensbizglobal.com, where you can find out how our coaching, media and publishing opportunities are helping women just like you to become and be seen as the trusted authorities in their niche. Inquire today and start reining in the abundance you desire.